One of my most anticipated movies of the year just premiered, and I've gotta say, I'm a little disappointed. While I enjoy James Gunn's work, this film suffers from a lot of issues that I and a lot of other people online and a lot of other critics saw coming from a mile away. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you're new, I do all kinds of reactions, reviews, and rankings, and a lot more. So check out the rest of the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Superman. Let's just get a few admissions out of the way first to understand really where I'm coming from with this review. I'm not a Zack Snyder fan. I really enjoy Man of Steel more than most people, I think. But to me, that's like one of maybe 3 good movies he's ever made. I don't even like the rest of the DCEU very much, especially his movies. So the negatives in this review aren't coming from a place of some sort of Zack Snyder fanboyism. Secondly, I'm not a big Superman fan. I grew up on comics, mostly Marvel, but on the DC side of things, well, honestly, between both comics, Batman has always been my absolute favorite. I don't hate Superman, I've just never really thought he was that interesting. I will say I did also grow up on the DC animated TV universe, and I adore all of those shows. Batman, the animated series, Justice League Unlimited, and yes, even the Superman animated series is incredible. And that's the best praise I can give this film. It feels like a comic book come to life on screen. Superman feels like one of those stories brought into live action. Superman is a character that inspires love, hope, peace, and perseverance, and with a character like that, it stands to reason that you would want to create a bright and vibrant color palette for that movie to heighten and inspire that message. Gunn made the right choice, making this movie as colorful as it is. It's a gorgeous movie to look at. While I enjoy Man of Steel, one of my chief complaints was how drab and dreary it all looks, especially Cavill's suit. Speaking of which, Corn Sweat, his suit grew on me. It's great, except the trunks. I still hate the trunks. They look corny as hell. For all the press around Corn Sweat pushing the trunks to relate to kids because of their love of pro wrestling or whatever, it's just funny because he interacts with one kid in this entire film, so I don't know why they were pushing that message so hard. The performances across the board are fantastic. Corn Sweat embodies this character. He's charming, likable, funny, he's very emotional when he needs to be, and he makes mistakes out of his just pure love for humanity like Superman should. He's the best casting for this character in my lifetime. Sorry, Henry Cavill, I still love you. Brosnahan is phenomenal as Lois. She's steadfast, intelligent, professional, and she's not afraid to push the Man of Steel to be better when he needs to be. And the chemistry between both her and Corn Sweat is exceptional. Eddie Gathie also is great as Mr. Terrific. He plays his character so calmly and just so cool. He's, in the comics, he's one of the smartest men in the DC universe, and you definitely see that on screen. He knows how to get around all kinds of technology. He's confident in what he does. It's great. And him and Brosnahan actually share a lot of screen time together, which I didn't expect, and their chemistry is also fantastic. I was skeptical about Nicholas Hoult as Luthor, but honestly, he killed it. He plays such a slimy and relentless just piece of shit. He shares a few pretty emotional scenes with Corn Sweat, and they both play off each other so fantastically. And the rest of the cast are all good to great, but admittedly, they don't get a ton of screen time to rave about. The narrative is interesting and pretty relatable to what's currently going on in the Middle East, but as I predicted, the film overall feels overstuffed, and I can't help but wonder if Gunn shot himself in the foot by avoiding the origin story. I enjoy origin stories. I enjoy seeing another writer-director's take on a character's backstory and their beginnings. In fact, I don't hear many people complain about origin stories really at all. I don't know why directors are so opposed to it. But we're thrown into this story 3 years into Clark's role as Superman, and it feels kind of disconnected at times. Not just because Gunn lazily paints the picture of the main conflict using just a paragraph of words on screen to initiate us, but because this movie is very action heavy and doesn't let up very much. So we don't get a ton of downtime to understand main characters and their personalities or their motivations. Like Lex, we get a couple lines that allude to why he feels the way he feels. He feels insignificant now that there are these god-like beings among the human race, even though he's this famous, wealthy billionaire. And that's good. That's a good idea. It's a good start for sure. However, I would have liked to see a full evolution of that character that went from skepticism of Superman to all-out hatred. There was one instance where I felt like Lex's character was almost ruined. After imprisoning Superman in his pocket universe, he plays Russian roulette with one of these street vendors that Supes is familiar with. And he just outright murders the guy in front of like 100 people. It's so abrupt and just way out of left field for the tone of the rest of this movie. The Lex I have experience with acts much like a mafia boss. He operates in the shadows, making others do his dirty work as to not implicate himself, and he manipulates people. But he just blows a guy's head off in front of all these witnesses, and it's just very strange. I know a lot of people are indifferent on the twist with Clark's biological parents. I actually thought it was one of the better choices in the film and quite refreshing. To me, it helps establish his humanity knowing that he chose not to be the overlord of the human race like his parents intended. It ultimately makes him a more inspiring figure. To that end, though, I think humanity loving him, then turning on him, then loving him again all happens way too quickly. You never actually have an opportunity to just sit with it. My favorite part of the plot is the Middle Eastern conflict between these two countries. One is about to be invaded by a more powerful country, and again, I wish we would have seen this on screen, but before the movie starts, Superman intervenes and tells them not to. And it threatens his relationship with the US government because they're an ally of the US government. And it brings in this whole interesting and nuanced moral perspective to Superman. Like, does he have the right to engage in these conflicts just because he's the most powerful being on the planet? Like, was he right to do so? Should he have gone the legal route of doing this? Or because of his power level, he can just do whatever he wants for the good of humanity? But then that begs the question, like, well, who says it's for the good of humanity? Just him? Is it just his opinion? Because as we know, opinions are very subjective. And that's one of the through lines of this film, and even Lois questions him on it quite a bit when he volunteers for her to interview him, and it kind of makes him a little disgruntled and angry because she's not seeing his perspective, and it's one of the things that adds a flaw to his character, and I think it's one of the best parts of the film. The action is great, there's a ton of it. The camera angles and the way a lot of these scenes are shot is a ton of fun. It was a lot of the action sequences too, which I appreciated, take place in and around Cleveland, where they shot a lot of this movie. And being from Northeast Ohio, it was kind of fun just getting to like point out landmarks and buildings and, you know, the Guardians Stadium, like all that was really cool. So that's just like an added plus for me. There are a handful of characters I felt were kind of unnecessary to the plot and led to the overall bloated feel of the movie. Gunn is great at ensembles. I mean, his past like 5 projects, that's all he's done is ensemble pieces. And that's fine. But I wish he would have been smart enough to get out of his own way and just make a Superman movie. I don't mean that like it just has to be Superman. Maybe throw one other hero in there, like Mr. Terrific would have been fine. I don't need Hawkgirl, Green Lantern, the Engineer, etc. None of these characters get enough play to care about anyway. And the Engineer especially is so forgettable. That character could have just been a stock Luthor henchman. He should have inserted Metamorpho into that role. Metamorpho is barely in this movie, but I think it would have been more impactful having Metamorpho be the right-hand man to Luthor, because Luthor was holding his family captive. Again, I'm fine with Terrific being in this because he actually serves a purpose. You need him to kind of get around all the technological barriers. But all the other heroes and villains he adds in, they're all kind of, for lack of a better word, disposable. I saw recently in the press junket, Gunn explained the bigger cast, and he compared it to Oppenheimer and how it had a big cast and nobody complained about it. But the thing is that when you make a superhero movie and introduce superhumans with crazy powers and all these different power sets, the audience is inherently going to be curious about those metahumans' powers and how they got them and where they come from. That's different because when you're watching Oppenheimer, nobody sees Emily Blunt walk on the screen as his wife and say, "Oh, I really wish I knew her backstory. Can we get a show or a spin-off movie about her origin?" It's just not a fair comparison. These are two different genres. I also think establishing a universe where metahumans have existed for 3 million years and they've been popular for decades was kind of a mistake. I get it, but you see it so much in this movie where heroes are saving Metropolis and people just don't react or care because they're just numb to it. And sometimes it makes this movie feel like there aren't very heavy stakes. But again, I don't necessarily hate this idea. I just wish, again, he would have shown us this rather than told us. I think my last point is about the comedy. I think Gunn is normally brilliant at balancing drama and humor. That's not the case here. There are too many poignant moments that are undercut by unnecessary comedy. Like towards the end when Soups gives an emotional speech to Lex about how he's as human as everyone else, maybe even more so than Lex. And it's immediately turned into a comedic bit with Crypto attacking Lex and trying to bite his arm off. It's ridiculous. This happens a lot in this movie, and it ruins some of the characterizations. I appreciate Gunn giving Superman more of a personality in this movie and showing the full spectrum of who he is as a character. I mean, listen, we actually see him saving people and animals, but because there's so much comedy infused, we never get the godlike reverence that we got in the Snyderverse, which I think is sorely missed here. There's like one good shot of him looking like this incredible superhuman that everyone looks up to and everyone cries out for. He saves this woman from a collapsing building and she like turns back in her car and looks at the smoke and sees him, and that's it. I would have loved if we would have gotten maybe a few more shots like that, or people talking about how he inspires hope in so many people. Something like that. And I think it was just, like I said, sorely missed in this movie. Because of this too, it also makes the Kents into these unnecessarily just like dopey country bumpkins, which I just despised. I know a lot of people didn't like it. I liked Kevin Costner's Pa Kent. I can see where the complaints are, but like maybe something in between. You didn't have to go full like other side of the spectrum on these characters. It just, I don't know. I didn't like that at all. And like I said, Gunn is usually a master at balancing drama and comedy, but in my opinion, you never get that emotional punch like you do when, say, Yondu saves Peter in Guardians 2, or when the Guardians finally join together to stop Ronan in the first Guardians, or even when Ratcatcher summons the Rats to take down Starro in the Suicide Squad. You never get these inspiring, emotionally impactful moments. In the end, you're just left feeling like you should care more than you actually do because you've been told so much about these characters and these prior events leading up to this point, instead of actually experiencing them yourself. Just one last little nitpick here, but Lois driving Mr. Terrific's ship is so dumb. Gunn plays it off with a line like, "Oh, it's easy and it's an intuitive spacecraft. You can get it, no problem." But it's not a fucking car. It's like a hovering, flying spacecraft-like vehicle. It's as bad as when Claire runs from a T-Rex in high heels in Jurassic World. Just two nonsensical choices that could have been fixed with a little more just like focused writing. All in all, I enjoyed this movie. I had a lot of fun with it. It's definitely very, very entertaining. But I definitely think that this film was sold very, very well off of the trailers. I thought all the trailers released for this film were incredible. They all just hit you right in the nostalgia bone. Even for people like me who don't really like Superman that much, I was inspired by these trailers. And I just feel like the movie never really lives up to the hype built from those trailers. This is a good film for sure. I'm not saying that it's not. with a very good Superman, and Corn, Sweat, and Gunn deserve praise for that aspect of it. I just wish it was great.